into this section on architecting on AWS and the AWS ecosystem. So first, we are going to talk about the well-architected framework and the general guiding principles. So in the cloud, when you wanted to have good architecture, you need to stop guessing your capacity needs. Instead, you should use auto-scaling and scale based on what the actual demand on your system is going to be. You should also test your system at production scale. In the cloud, you can create as many resources as you want very quickly, and as such, there is no reason why. For example, for 1 hour, you couldn't test a system at production scale. This allows you in the future to make sure that your system is ready when you actually publish it to your customers. Now, it's also very important to automate to make architectural experimentation easier. So for this, CloudFormation is very important because if you get infrastructure as code, then you can easily create an architecture on different accounts and different regions. Also, using platform as a service such as Beanstalk could be very helpful to experiment quickly. You should also allow to make your architecture evolve. So you need to design based on changing requirements. That means that when you migrate a workload from on-premise to the cloud, maybe at first you make it match one-to-one, but then you try to rethink how can I leverage the cloud better, maybe making it serverless for example. Then drive architecture in data. It's not good to guess, it's good to look at what the actual usage is. What are the patterns, what are the queries, and then drive your architecture and use the right services based on what you actually need based on this data. Also, improve through game days. So that means that you simulate applications for flash sale days, and this will stress your system, and by stressing your system, you will know if you are doing well. So for example, I'll give you an example. Netflix, they have something called the Chaos Monkey, and it's a program that in their EC2 environment goes ahead and terminates EC2 instances at random in production, and they see, thanks to this Chaos Monkey, if they are ready for failures, if they are ready for big spikes, if they are ready for errors. So it's super important to think that now you are in the cloud. You have new capabilities, so you need to start thinking like you are using the cloud. So the design principles when using the cloud and the best practices. The first one is to be scalable. So we have seen the vertical scalable and the horizontal scalability. Also because we can easily create and remove servers, we have disposable resources, so your servers should be easily disposable and easily configured. If you put too much configuration onto a server and somehow that server, if lost, it will be losing its resources as well. If you need to have maybe 3 days of work again to reconfigure that server, you haven't done things properly. In the cloud, everything is supposed to be disposable, including your infrastructure, and so you need to make sure to back up your data. You need to make sure that you have backup your configuration and that you have ways to very quickly reconfigure your entire architecture. Automation. So these are guided by the principles of serverless, infrastructure as a service, auto-scaling, and so on. Loose coupling, which is very important. So when you have an application at first, it's called a monolith. That means it's an application that can do everything, and over time, the more you add on to the application, the bigger it becomes. And because it's a monolith, it can be difficult to maintain and difficult to scale. Instead, you should break it down into smaller, loosely coupled components, so that maybe they will be linked through SNS or SQS or by other means. The idea is that a change or a failure in one component should not cascade to the other components, because in the cloud, again, things can fail and you need to be prepared for failure. Finally, think in services, not servers. So you could just use EC2, but it's not recommended. DC2 would be to translate whatever you have on premises in the cloud. But think in terms of services. What managed services can you use? Database, serverless, etc. That can make your life a lot easier. So this is where the well-architected framework goes in. It is most important for you to understand how the architecture framework can be used at the exam and in real life. So there is 5 pillars. And first one is operational excellence. The second one is security. The third one, reliability, performance efficiency, and cost optimizations. All these things we will see in depth in this section to understand how the services relate to these pillars. And this is not something to balance or trade off. They are a synergy. So the more you improve your operational excellence, probably the more you're gonna have a cost optimized architecture. And as well, if you have efficiency in performance, then you will also have more cost optimization. Finally, security is not something that is very expensive, and by having security, maybe you will have more reliability and better performance. So it's up to you really to see how you can use these pillars together to architect your application. Though I will see you in the next 5 lectures.